Well, hey there, people out in the world. How you doing today? Have you ever wanted to buy a battery-operated saw or power tool and not known what kind to get? Should you go generic? Should you go with the store brand, the Ryobi? And I'd like to talk about some of these things, and also the capacity of batteries and aftermarket batteries. Now, I'm not going to be one of those guys who's going to make a video where I'm going to cut 100 boards and put up a timer and all these graphics to show you how these things work. All the videos I've watched like that, because I've done my research on buying aftermarket batteries for these tools, all my research has led me to the conclusion that none of it's complete. There may be somebody who compares a brand new DeWalt battery to a generic version of the same thing for half the price. And one guy might say, oh, this is horrible, you only get half the life. The next guy says, oh, they're just as good. And then one guy says, well, they sent me this battery to review, so I'm going to give it a good review. You just never know. But here's the thing, if you're testing a battery right when you get it, here's the thing, sometimes batteries don't hold as good of a charge when you first get them, and they improve over time. I've had this happen. Most of the time, however, a battery will start out with a good charge, and within a few months, maybe it won't even charge again. And I'm going to give you an example. See, I'm working on a job out in the woods here, and there's no power there generally. We have a generator, but I'd like to be able to just saw things freely. So I brought my Makita. Now this saw is just your standard battery operated. This is a 6.5-inch blade, yet it only cuts, I think you get 2 1/8 inch depth of a cut total. And it's a great little saw. I bought it used from a guy with a battery operated miter saw, drills, all this stuff. And here's what I found quickly. The batteries sucked. These are old nickel metal hydride batteries. So what I did was I didn't want to spend $50 to $100 for each battery to get a new Makita battery. So I went and bought a generic. You can tell because it's red. No brand name, just your standard generic battery. And I thought, well, how much could it hurt? It's like 25 bucks a piece or something. It hurt a lot. I got them home, they wouldn't charge, it would flash not charging, you'd have to put it in 10 times, and finally it would get a full charge after several attempts. Both batteries did this. I bought a 2-pack. And once they finally did hold a full charge, I just finished charging this and I tried to run it through a piece of like a 2x6. It was actually a piece of butcher block countertop. It took me like a full 30 seconds to get through this much of it because there wasn't enough power to drive. And this is what brings me to the batteries, and getting the right batteries really does make a difference. The minute I got those, I realized they weighed like a third less than the other batteries. So many aftermarket companies are trying to sell you junk batteries, and when you can save a few bucks, or even, 75% off the cost, of course people want to try it out. Here's where it gets interesting. If you're just a homeowner, and you might just cut a few things a year, maybe make a couple planter boxes or something, a generic battery probably work just fine. You don't need something that's going to hold up to daily use. I'm a carpenter. I build tiny houses right now, so everything we're doing is cutting plywood, 2x4s. I needed a saw that would do the job and be lightweight, so I went out and bought this the other day. This is a DeWalt 20-volt, I don't know what they call it. I don't know if there's a name. It's just a standard circular saw, but it's created a little more with a longer handle. It's easier to control. Now this thing has only a 4.5-inch blade. The most it will cut through is 1.5 inch material, meaning that as long as it's a 2x4, 2x6, 2x whatever, this will cut through it. If the board is cupped a little bit, it might leave a little bit on the edge, but let's just say it does the job. I got this mainly for cutting plywood, and yesterday I was working on a trailer and I was going freehand cutting these lines, and this thing is amazing. This is just a great tool. I love it. And I only bought it because it was on sale for 129 bucks, and I thought, that's really going to save me some time. And I already had the batteries because I have a drill and a reciprocating saw, or sawzall, that take the same batteries. And this is your standard DeWalt 20-volt 3-amp battery. There's the smallest ones they make. Even these, I think, are like 30, 40 bucks a piece. And you can get a 2-pack of the larger 6-amp ones for 140 bucks, 150 bucks on sale. So the tools, if I went out and bought a 9-amp battery, it would cost me about 140 bucks. Like I said, this tool cost me 130 bucks. So you're talking about a battery that costs more than the tool. And that's why I'm talking about this, because there's so many people out there who are just wondering, could I get away with a generic battery? And as we all know, reviews don't mean a damn thing. I vape, so I buy the vape batteries. The 18650s is what they're called. I have bought so many different brands, off brands, name brands, and this is where it gets kind of messy, because many companies are now doing knockoffs of name brands, and they can get away with this through Amazon. So even when you're buying a legitimate OEM product, original manufacturer, you don't even know if it's coming from that manufacturer. It makes it a lot harder. I'm of the mind that today, if I'm going to go out and buy a battery or a tool, I'm going to order it from the store. I'm going to go to the store, maybe spend a little more to get it, and make sure it's what I want. It's like this. If you see something that looks too good to be true, it probably is. But in a nutshell, if you're just a standard a homeowner, you probably won't even need battery-operated tools. Of course, if you have the extra money to spend on, $200 per tool and then batteries, good for you. I was never able to afford things unless I needed them for my job. So when I do buy a tool, and a tool that works well, I'm definitely going to give it props. As I said, this thing, I love this thing. DeWalt did not give me any money to review it. I have no connection with them whatsoever. I'm a little sussy about their products because everything's made in China now. I mean, all these companies were sold. I think DeWalt is owned by like Black & Decker now. I mean, Black & Decker was kind of the joke homeowner tools, but let me just say this. If you're a person who doesn't do carpentry full-time and you just want tools, don't listen to anybody's bullshit about buying nice name brand tools. If you go down to Home Depot and you buy their Ryobi brand, I have a Ryobi drill that I've had for probably 10 years, and I've never bought new batteries for it. I just charge the old ones, and it still works as well as the day I got it. Sure, maybe the battery doesn't hold as much of a charge. I have several drills, so I don't use it as often. But it was a good tool, and it worked. And I used it on the site, in construction. So, if you were a person who only used your drill in the summer to maybe build something, get the cheapest you can, within reason. And I would say that the generic Home Depot brands are pretty good. I haven't tried the Lowe's. I think they have I don't remember what their name of their generic product is, but they have one too, and I haven't tried those. But I do like to go with name brand when it comes to power tools. And here's the thing, and here's the big point I want to make before I go. If you're working at home, like I said, any battery will work. It'll do the job probably. If you go out in the woods and you're driving an hour out to a job site and you get out there, you set up all your stuff, and you start running your saw and your battery dies in like 5 minutes, how are you going to charge your battery? This is one of those circumstances where paying a little extra pays off in the end because you have the juice you need. And from the tests I've seen, this battery here will last longer than a 6 amp, which is twice as big, from a generic manufacturer. So it ultimately comes down to price and efficiency. And just to make it clear, I actually did end up ordering 2 generic batteries for these. They're going to be backups. And yeah, it was about 1/3 of the price, but I did the review. I looked at the reviews, not online, but YouTubers who actually would talk about this. And back in the day, there were no YouTubers reviewing tools. And it's kind of cringy because half the time you don't even know if they're just being paid off to talk about a tool being great, or that they want to give it a good review so they can get more free tools in the mail. It's become very hard to know what's what out there. So that was just my rant about power tool batteries and just my little corner of the world. Everybody has their own different needs, their own different jobs and things that they might do. So generic batteries can work, but they might not be worth the cost. And that's my take on it. It's up to you and how often you're going to use your tool. And if you don't use your tool for a long period of time, it's recommended to always take the battery off of the power tool, of course. Just kind of a side note. And yeah, that's about it. Just a little ramble about tools. Be well, my friends.